Hi there. My name is Nicholas Mitchell. I'm currently a real estate and construction attorney here at MP Weiss Law. Today, I'm going to be answering some questions about fraudulent non-disclosure and what to do if you're a buyer who has recently bought a house and have discovered some new issues. What's usually going on in those situations could be a multitude of things. First and foremost, it may not always be a misrepresentation. Sometimes things happen in a used house. Unfortunately, a house that wasn't built yesterday, or even a house that was built yesterday, may have issues. It ultimately may be just a unfortunate bad luck. There are, though, some instances where maybe a seller wasn't completely honest. And if you're in a situation where a seller maybe wasn't completely honest, the first thing you need to look at is those residential property disclosures that you were provided at the time that you made your initial offer. As the buyer, if you believe that you may be in a situation where you were deceived in a home purchase, my first instruction to you would be to reach out to your realtor, find any documents that you may have related to the transaction, and again, review those documents. I would also say determine what the actual cause of the damage was. Is this a sewer backup? Did a ceiling collapse? What actually happened here? And also reach out to your insurance. File an insurance claim. If you have a sewer backup, file and claim with your insurance if you have that coverage in your policy. The difference between frustrating and fraudulent non-disclosure cases can be a pretty gray area. Fraudulent non-disclosure cases, real fraudulent non-disclosure cases generally have significant underlying damage that was hidden. What I'm talking about in cases like that is a basement full of mold with significant water damage that had just paint covered up. In a situation like that, you're going to quickly see the effects of that non-disclosure. So, a week after moving in, you're going to find a basement full of mold. Whereas an unfortunate situation is a sewer backup and having no information about any prior sewer backups. A big one we see is, sewer backups, water line burst, something like that. So in a situation of fraudulent non-disclosure, a buyer actually has the responsibilities just as a seller does. As a seller, your job is to disclose any defects that you personally know related to the home. So anything you have knowledge of. If there was a flood 2 years ago, that's something you should disclose. As a buyer, your biggest responsibilities are to make sure you do your homework, make sure you have that home inspection, make sure that if something is found in that home inspection, that you follow up and have the secondary inspection. And most importantly, as a buyer, when you're going to purchase a property, you never want to waive inspection rights or correction rights. If something is discovered in a home inspection, that is not the end of the world. However, you still need to be proactive in either reaching an agreement with the seller to remediate you purchasing the property, or understanding that if you purchase the property with that defect, that you can't go after the seller later for that defect. A case of fraudulent non-disclosure is not an easy case to win. The state of Ohio has significant case law regarding the responsibilities of the buyer and what you should do prior to buying a home. There's also a lot of protections for the sellers in the state of Ohio to avoid just people suing because they found a needed correction with paint or something small. In a case like this, again, where maybe you reached out to insurance and insurance determined that there's no coverage, you're really talking about a major issue. So a complete failure of all of the HVAC, furnace, air conditioning, anything like that, major sewer backups, flooded bathrooms, roof replacements that weren't actually performed, but were said that they were performed, major home repairs. It would not necessarily be my recommendation to file or seek a frauds or non-disclosure claim for something that's small and minor. So maybe, a toilet that doesn't flush appropriately or a sink that doesn't have the best water pressure. Those are things that likely will be not only quickly resolved if you do it yourself, but also at the end of the day, won't be worth the headache of prolonged litigation in a fraudulent non-disclosure case. So if you are a recent home buyer, if you do have any questions regarding issues you may have discovered in your recently purchased home, please feel free to give our office a call and set up a consultation. We'd be more than happy to answer any questions you may have for us.